Hello, hello, Stan Sakai. It's amazing to have you back on Culture Chat.
Well, thank you, Mimi. It's good to be back.
Yes, yes. Well, last year when we spoke, you were just changing publishers. Usagi
Mhm.
was going to full color. You hinted at the TV show, but now, obviously, Usagi TV show has been announced officially.
Mhm.
You just won the Eisner for Best Archival Collection, Lettering, and was inducted into the Hall of Fame. So
Yeah.
well deserved. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a very good year.
Yeah, yes, despite all the other things, I'm so grateful that we could have some good things to celebrate and things to
Yeah.
be happy
Mhm.
about. It's a much needed thing, I think,
Mhm.
actually. So it's really an exciting time for you.
Yeah. Well, as you said, I'm now with IDW. It's Usagi's full color series. It's actually two series. There's a new ongoing series, as well as IDW is taking upon themselves to recolor the entire Usagi library. So they're starting off with the very first issues or very first stories, and they're coloring that, as well as the new stories coming out.
Yes, yes, and I've been fortunate to be able to kind of try to keep up and have been I think last time we spoke I told you a lot of people I know, oh, they love color and I go, guess
Mhm.
what? Now you could see Usagi in full color from the beginning. So that's kind of a
Mhm.
cool experience. How has that been for you to kind of see now that it's been almost a kind of a year in the making, just all these issues? Because for so many years, although there had been some color series and
Mhm.
whatnot, like how has been that been transitionally for you to go, oh wait, that's right, we're in full color, the full thing now.
Well, as far as the process goes and the artwork, it hasn't changed at all. And just the advent of color, it's like I love it. Tom Luth has been doing a wonderful job. Rhonda Patterson has been doing a terrific job on the classics, and it looks great. And
Oh,
realistically, nowadays you have to go to color. Back when Usagi started, black and white comics were pretty common, but now how many black and white comics are around? I mean, even
it's
Walking Dead has stopped. So
yeah, yeah, and but I think that also kind of shows the strength of Usagi, that
Mhm.
it didn't really matter if it was in black and white, we were all still reading it.
Actually, it was a color series when
Yes.
we went over to Mirage
Hmm.
for about 16 issues or so, and we actually got complaints because they thought the coloring took away, detracted from the line work,
Right, right, right.
and so that's the only time that we really got complaints about the artwork for Usagi.
So did you
We
kind
did
of
get hmm?
I was gonna say, did you use that feedback to kind of find that balance as you went through now that you knew it was gonna be full color all the time? Or is it, like
Not
you said, the
really.
process is kind of the same?
Process is exactly the same. I
Yeah.
was going to say though, we did get complaints. The most complaints we ever got was when one of the lesser supporting characters, Spot, the little lizard,
The lizard.
Usagi's pet lizard, died.
Oh,
And we
yeah.
thought, what? You killed off Spot?
Well, it's kind of nice that the very few complaints you get are in some ways actual compliments towards you, because
Mhm.
basically it's like you all the work with your lines and shading and of course that beloved character. Yes, that was kind of a sad thing. But you know, the thing we talked about last time as well with Usagi and what you write, it's so there's so much truth to
Mhm.
it that everyone can't always
Yeah.
survive, and there are some very touching and sad
Mhm.
episodes for sure, some sad
Right.
issues, but we're gonna definitely keep delving into that. But I was curious, are you excited that, like I said, last year we hinted at the TV show and everything, but now it's like official and Netflix is going to be showing
Netflix.
it. How does
Yeah.
that feel for you?
Oh, it feels great. I've been working on it for the past year or so,
Hmm.
approving scripts, character designs, and just meeting the team.
Hmm.
And we work well together, and I've been really impressed with the direction they're going. It is not the my Usagi; it's a descendant of this Usagi, and it's geared more for a younger audience
Hmm.
because nowadays, the viewership for cartoons has really gone down. By 6 years
Mm.
old, kids are already into computer games, and they're not into cartoons as much.
Yeah.
So everything, all the animated shows geared for kids have
Uh,
been geared for a smaller, a younger audience. So
Yes.
Usagi is going for demographics which is higher than the norm. I think we're going for the 6 to 12-year-olds, and I think most of them, most of the cartoons are going for more the 4 to 6.
I see. Well, I have a feeling that many avid Usagi fans, such as myself, will still be watching it. And I definitely break out of that 12-year-old demographic. I
Well,
have a feeling.
there is a specific reason why we're going with a descendant, and but unfortunately we can't talk about that yet.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we look forward to all the surprises and things that are coming ahead. So
And it
that's
will be a
exciting.
surprise,
Oh
a
my
good
goodness.
surprise.
Oh, Stan, you are so tempting us with these little tidbits. But I know, of course, we are all surviving in this COVID-19
Mhm.
pandemic, and there has been a lot of conversation. I've tried to talk to some entertainment industry professionals, and there was like a hint that, well, with COVID-19, perhaps animation is going to be a little more prevalent just due to the nature of the work being able to be more independent. Do you have any kind of opinion on that or thoughts
Well,
on
like I
that?
said, I've been approving scripts. I had 3 scripts um, to be approved yesterday,
Okay.
and I have 2 more that's due tomorrow. And so, yeah, we're still working. And
Hmm.
when I say approvals, it's each episode goes through, I think, about 4 different script stages. There's a premise, there's a first draft, second draft, third draft, fourth draft, which is a final draft. So each draft has to be looked at, approved, and uh, you know, like I said, the stories are wonderful, great characters, situations, and the designs are just incredible.
Oh my goodness, we're so excited. Is this something that because I know we've spoken before and you are pretty much, I love drawing Usagi. I love working the comic. That's your main thing. But how are you enjoying kind of this other end of production, a different medium? Has it been enjoyable for you?
It's been very enjoyable, but I'm also spending most of my time on the comic books. I
Hmm.
love doing the stories, and I'm just not working on the Usagi, but Julie, my wife, and I are
Yes.
collaborating on the Chibi Usagi graphic novel. So
Yes.
that should be out next year too, and
Wonderful.
it's coming along great. It's that's a fun project.
Yeah, I love that. And, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was exactly that, where
Mhm.
I was fortunate enough to get to see you finally and meet you in person at San Diego Comic Con last year. And one of the things that really resonated was watching just, your interaction with your fans, but the fact that your booth reminded me a lot about the way my family interacts because I'm in a family
Mhm.
business and everything. And it
Oh
just
yeah.
seeing everybody collaborate together. And it was just like such a wonderful thing. What is it like working with family? And then, of course, working with Julie alongside
Oh
for
yeah.
all these other projects?
It's great. Daniel, Julie's son, is our business licensing merchandising manager. He
Mhm.
coordinates everything, including the Netflix and Gaumont deals. Emmy, Julie's daughter, is doing the coloring for the Chibi Usagi story, and
Mhm.
she colored the Free Comic Book Day story, the Usagi Chibi Usagi Free Comic Book Day story, which I think is coming out in August.
Oh, okay.
With the pandemic, it's
Yes.
throughout the entire Free Comic Book Day thing.
Yeah. I mean, the pandemic certainly has thrown off a lot of things. I know that from other creators, though, like they said, well, my life, so to speak, isn't disruptive because I'm home. But how has the pandemic been treating you for your work? And also, how is your family doing?
Oh, we're doing fine. My mother in Hawaii is in assisted living,
Oh,
and I used to visit her every 4 months, 3 months. But now I can't because if I travel to Hawaii, there's a 2-week quarantine period,
hmm,
and so
yeah.
going to Hawaii, spending 2 weeks in a hotel room, and then it's
Yes, is not very efficient. It's definitely much
exactly.
harder to do. And traveling in general right now feels precarious.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
definitely doesn't feel very
But
comfortable. So
family in California, we're all doing fine.
wonderful, wonderful. And
How it affected me is that all the conventions have been canceled,
yes.
so there's much less traveling, and the publishers, IDW, basically all the publishers are put on hiatus,
Hmm.
which meant that there were no Usagi stories coming out. But since I've been working on Usagi all this time, it's going to when it's just starting to open now. So
Mhm.
Usagi will come on a very, very regular basis.
Oh, very good. I'm glad to hear that. Selfishly, I'm glad to hear that. But speaking of conventions, that's definitely been something that's been altered. And for creators such as
Mhm.
yourself, that was definitely traveling around to so many of these conventions. Um, it was the first year San Diego did this virtual
Yeah.
convention. And of course, it was unfortunate because literally you totally wiped up all the awards this year. And it would have been nice for you to have your moment on stage and everything and having that full experience. But what was that San Diego Comic Con, having the virtual booths and the panels? How did that differ? Did you enjoy it? What were your thoughts?
For us, it was very successful as far
Hmm.
as sales, but however, we all missed the interaction with the fans, with the
Yeah.
readership, and just introducing new people to Usagi.
Yeah.
And it's the people. That's the main reason why we go to these conventions, just to meet the readers, introduce new readers to Usagi, and just meeting with other professionals.
Hmm.
At Comic Con San Diego, we would look forward to a Saturday night dinner with Serge Aragonés,
Yes.
Joe Ferreira, and Scott Shaw, and
Mm.
so many others, Floyd Norman. And that was always our high point of Comic Con, just to hang out with the other professionals, friends that we've known for, 30, 40 years. And was always the high point.
Yeah, I know. I felt so fortunate that I was able to actually be able to experience that and see you last year, like I said. And then Scott, it was nice because we did these podcasts together, and then I was able to kind of interact in person, and I got to hang out with Scott and Sergio at their booth too. And what was really cool was when I got to meet you and we were talking, and like one of your fans said, "Oh, I just listened to your podcast," and it was just so cool to kind of feel that love for you and for
Mhm.
what you do. And yeah, I can definitely see how that would have been something that's super missed because the fans love interacting with you guys and
Oh,
being
and
able to see you as a
Usagi
friend.
has such incredible fans.
Yes,
It's a
yes.
great community.
I would, and that's of course due to you, and not just your work, but
Mhm.
I put out for like questions from fans. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna get to talk to Stan again," and it was interesting because we didn't have like a crazy slew of questions, but it was everybody's comment is like, "Oh, he's so kind and generous," and anybody that you mention the name Stan Sakai to, immediately it's like, "Oh, he's the kindest in comics, and he's so genteel." I'm like, oh yes, I agree. And so that's I think a testament to also your personality and what you bring to it, not just
Mhm.
because of the work that you do. I mean, I
No,
think
thank you.
it's a lot.
Thank
It's a
you.
lot to do with you, and just going to your booth and being able to see you. You don't just sign your name. Each signature has like artwork, and you take such
Mhm.
time and care. And so I think fans truly appreciate that, because you
Mhm.
show your appreciation back. So
Oh
I think
yeah.
it's a nice give and take.
Well, I'm very fortunate to do what I do.
Yeah.
It's you know truly a dream come true. It.
Well, I did want to ask you a couple questions kind of about process. We got to talk a lot about it
Mhm.
last time, but as a traditional martial artist, that's something that I've done my whole life, and I, see that as something I'm always striving to just perfect my craft and focus on one thing, and I'm not usually trying to learn different art forms, and I'm kind of like trying to find my way in what I'm doing and perfect that. And I just see that you've really done that as a creator. You've of course been guests in certain things, and you've done different issues. If someone asks you, I'm sure you're very willing, but you've really focused on Usagi. You've really made that your perfection and mastery. And I was wondering where you find that discipline, or where you feel you've developed that type of discipline. I know you just have a love for him and that character, but there is a certain discipline that goes along with, even like you said, during the pandemic, so many people told me they couldn't do anything, like their creativity had stopped, and you're just still going. So there is a discipline to that, and I wonder where that kind of comes from, or how that's developed.
Well, I have deadlines, and like you said, I am disciplined. I know I'm very fortunate, and I don't take it for granted. Uh, when I write a story, it takes me about a month just to write it down, and the artwork takes about another 4 weeks. But so I'm very fortunate. I know that, and I'm always working. Even also too, we have a studio in the home, so we're always at work, which is a good thing and a bad thing because
Yeah.
we're always working.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
used to love these going to conventions because it gets me out of the studio. So it's like
Yeah.
a little vacation, just a little break from real work.
Right, right. It breaks it up. And even though it's still work technically, but it does break it up. And like you said, I think maybe just like you had to do the virtual San Diego Comic Con, you and Sergio and Scott, everybody, you guys should have done the virtual dinner thing where you
Uh,
guys like all get together and then have like a dinner and say, you know what, let's take the time. That's kind of what we have to do now because
we have
otherwise.
we have virtual lunches
Oh, you do?
every Friday. We used to meet at a restaurant
Hmm.
every week. They would reserve a table for us, and anywhere from 4 to 15 people would show up,
Wow.
and they'd always accommodate us. And we started doing the online lunches now, just to catch up, keep up with what everyone's doing. Scott's on there, Floyd Norman, a few other people. We were doing these lunches for about. I joined about maybe 25 years ago, and I'm
Wow.
with you guys.
That's amazing. So you've been doing the lunches
Mhm.
for that long, but like, and then through the pandemic, I guess did it kick up even more, or you just kind of keep consistent with the kind of, is it a weekly, you said?
It's a weekly, yeah, and we have people from Disney because we used to eat in Burbank, so
Hmm.
Disney Studios is close by.
Okay.
Once in a while, someone from DreamWorks. I'm a freelancer. Scott was also a freelancer, and it's just that because we uh, work in isolation,
Hmm.
it's nice to just get together, blow off steam, and just talk about the industry, talk about what's going on within each other's lives, and so it's wonderful. I mean, I really needed that, and I still do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it must be so wonderful because I think there's a little bit of a brother slash sisterhood slash
Mhm.
familial thing about people who do what you do because not everyone can understand it, right? Like talking about the process and it's a very specific niche group, and so it's great to have peers that you've been such lifelong friends with, and I think that must be quite special, and it must be a lot of fun as well. I would love to be a fly on the wall at one of those lunches to hear all this creator comic fun talk.
The funny thing is, my mother-in-law used to work close by, and she used to go to that restaurant every sometimes on Friday, and she always noticed this group of people in the corner that always seemed to be having fun. And it was until we're talking later on, and she said, "That was you guys." I said, "Yeah, that
That's
was my
funny.
daughter."
You busted. So, what does Stan Sakai order at these lunches? I'm all about food, so I know it's not about the food, but what's like your go-to lunch meal?
No, gee, I'll just used to order BLT. It was just a regular straightforward coffee shop. So
Mhm.
BLT.
Fun. That's fun. I always ask these strange questions. Sorry. um, so, we've talked a lot about your work. We've talked about how much I love Usagi. I've told you before that, my husband gets jealous because he's my boyfriend. But I feel like that for me, especially like for my art form and what I do, I have a lot of people that I consider to be like kind of my inspiration or role models or mentors. Was there someone in your life that you consider be very influential in your art and creation and the way that you work?
The first big influence on my work was Steve Ditko. This is during his Spider-Man, early Spider-Man, Doctor Strange days, and I love his work. And later on, it became more Jack Kirby. And when I discovered the European artists, Mobius, Sergio, of course, is a big influence, not only in the way I draw, but also I get to see, I worked with him for so many years. I see his process and I integrated his process into mine. And, there's just so many, John Buscema, especially after you meet them, that,
Mhm.
hey, he's a nice guy. And take a second look at his artwork. Yeah, his stuff is good. There's a lot of neat stuff in there.
Yeah.
Those-
And can you share a little bit about like what for example, with Sergio, like when you say process, is there
Mhm.
kind of an example you can point to that kind of resonated with you and that you said you've incorporated?
Yeah, the way he works, yeah, first of all, he does a plot outline, which is what I do. And he writes it all in longhand. And from there, he breaks down into thumbnail sketches. And from the thumbnail, he goes directly to the finished artwork on the big sheets. And usually for Gru, Mark Evanier, he would talk it over with Mark, and Mark would actually write the dialogue. And you know, that's the way I work too. Except I do everything myself. Where
Right.
Sergio has a colorist, has a letterer.
Hmm.
He has Mark to write the dialogue. So whereas um, I do everything.
Right. You say, Stan, so what do you think about this? And you're like, Stan, this is what I think. Do you like kind of have to talk to yourself a little bit? Because it is a lot of times I've spoken to collaborators and they're only writers or only artists. And, the collaboration part is so huge. Like if it's not gelling, then the project kind of shows that, right? If you have that feeling when it's a really great collaboration, the project's usually great. And so it's kind of nice to kind of be your own collaborator, because you kind of know where the vision is going and then you
Right.
then do
But I
exactly
do
what you want.
show Julie the pencils
Okay.
before it's inked and lettered. I show her the pencils, and she I gives her input. Like,
Hmm.
oh, this part is kind of confusing, or maybe you should substitute these words, or so there is input there. So it's not I'm just totally isolated with Usagi. I
Right,
do
right. You have that sounding board.
exactly. But as far as the publishers goes, they don't see the story until it's completely finished. It's I send in the inked and lettered comic book, and then that's the first time they see it, and they'll send it over to the colorist.
Yes, yes. And I'm not as knowledgeable as a lot of other people in terms of how that process is, but I've been told that you're one of the few in the world that publishers would allow that to go, because usually they have a little more oversight and control, but there's such a trust for what you do that that's pretty much how it is. Stan Sakai turns in his work and they're like, thank you, we're good to go. But normally the process is a little bit more back and forth and there's more oversight. So that just shows kind of their trust and, respect for what you're doing.
Right. And it's also, I own Usagi.
Hmm.
So it's completely 100% mine. And so I can do anything I want with him. So I tell them, oh, the next issue is going to be this story.
Hmm.
And it's going to be three-parter or whatever. So, they have no input except for small editorial things like, you know, you spelled something
Right, if you
incorrect.
catch a typo or something.
Yeah, exactly.
While I hear though that was not very frequent, because I also had the lovely Diana Schutz on the show before, and she goes, "Oh, he was just fabulous to work with because you didn't really have to do very much edits." So it's just, she said she really enjoyed working with you, of course. But I hear that you
Oh,
really.
Diana. Oh, she's wonderful. Whenever there were talks about the best editors in the field, Diana was always on that list, and there's a good reason why. And editors are good for most of my work. It doesn't require an editor, but Diana, her biggest role was being an advocate between myself and the publisher. And that's, I think, for our independent creator-owned comic, that's the biggest role of an editor, to become an advocate for the creator in the to promote Usagi, make sure there's a budget for Usagi. Also, too, if there's some dispute, Diana was always on my side, even against the higher ups.
Yeah, I can definitely see that after having some lovely conversations with her. She's fabulous. Absolutely adore her. So yeah, I could see how you guys worked really well together. I follow you, of course, on all your social media, and I see so much lovely fan art. How does it feel to just inspire so many people to want to create their own art, but also, pay respect to Usagi or some of those other amazing fun characters that you have?
I love seeing other people's interpretations of Usagi. And we get artwork from kids as well as seasoned professionals. So it's always great to see. And sometimes I'll say, hey, I never thought of doing that with Usagi. Maybe I should.
All right. So yeah, because I mean that's the beautiful thing about art is everyone has their own take on it. And I saw some watercolors. I mean, and it's always cool to see it in different mediums too,
Yeah.
right? Because there's paintings and different things. It's very, very different from the page. So yeah, but I think it's really cool that you post that and share that. I'm sure it thrills the artist, but also it's nice to see those interpretations and it's
Exactly.
fun. It's a lot of fun. Um, there are a lot of stories. There's so many that resonate in my head, and we spoke a lot about a lot of them last time. And obviously, you're beyond acclaimed for your grass cutter series by this point. Is there a story that kind of, not that it gets overlooked, but one that's maybe, smaller scale or something that you have a special affinity or love for that maybe doesn't get talked about as much, or something that is not as grand as perhaps the grass cutters arc?
I think Chao no Yu, the tea ceremony,
Yeah.
and the entire story, there's no fighting, no violence, very minimal words. And basically, it showed the tea ceremony between Usagi and Tomoe from the very beginning when he arrives at the tea house all the way to the end when he finally departs. And it's one of my favorites. It was very different because, like I said, there was no action. It was a very quiet story, but I got a lot of reaction for that.
Oh my goodness. I want to say I was almost brought to tears by that one, because one is I love the whole tea ceremony aspect of the culture, and two is obviously the love for Tomoe and Asagi, and just like seeing them having to part ways, and this, you're right, the stillness, and when you're turning pages yet you can feel like a slight breeze, or you can feel the way that the tea is sitting in a cup or a bowl. Like, it's kind of unbelievable actually what you were able to bring to such a medium where it's not like you're touching and feeling, like you're just like flipping the page, and it was really remarkable. I agree, that is definitely one of my
Yeah,
favorites.
I was able to participate in a couple of tea ceremonies,
Hmm.
and I had a few books about the tea ceremonies, which I used. However, I did make a mistake, and there's at the very beginning, Usagi brings his sword into the tea house, and the book was just about going to press, and then I discovered no, the swords are left outside. So I called Diane and said, "Don't send the artboards out. I have to redo those pages." So I
Hmm.
did them in a day and sent them over to Diana. And this is before the time of scanning and sending high resolution images. So I just FedEx it overnight to her.
Hmm.
So but we got it just before it went to
Oh
press.
my gosh, what a relief, because I know that you're a bit of a stickler for that. I've heard that, and I think we mentioned this last time, where if you found there was something wrong, like I think it was in the game of Go or something, and
Yeah.
you went back on the second print, you're like, make sure we fix that. And I mean, it's almost impossible to catch all of these idiosyncrasies because you go so detailed um, in your explanation of the culture and sharing of the culture. I mean, there's so much, right, that we're always learning. So, is there something that you've learned along the way that was kind of surprising for you as you began to learn more about the Japanese culture, or anything like such as the tea ceremony? Are there other things that were kind of surprising to you, or that really resonated?
Yeah, well, I'm third generation Japanese American. So, everything I learned was through research or my mom or going to Japan. And there's always things that surprised me that I did not know about, little idiosyncrasies about the Japanese culture. I can't think of any offhand, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
there's always something that surprises me. So
it is. There's always something. And most of those somethings I actually learned through reading Usagi. I'll admit. I love like at the beginning and the end, or at the end of it, where you kind of share like, oh, this is why the puppets were used in these type of staging, or this is why, this is what it's about, or the folklore of the monsters or spirits that you have in there, and why. I think that's always interesting that you kind of add that layer and how detailed it is and how much research that you do. But I love the fact that you're able to kind of learn more about your culture, because that's something I enjoy doing as well. Um, So for the tea ceremony that you participated in, where was that, and where did you
That
find that?
was in Seattle,
Mm-hmm.
and a convention, Anime Con, actually had invited a, a, a tea master, and uh, the first guest was a fan of Usagi, so she asked if I'd like to participate, and I did. I was a second guest, and she explained the first guest. She explained everything to me, answered all my questions, and it was wonderful. After 45 minutes of sitting on my knees, though, it was hard to get up.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. I can imagine that'd be pretty intense. My cousin had um, gotten married in Thailand because his wife
Mhm.
is Thai, and I was there on video, like it was a FaceTime, to see, and I was like, wow, they've been on their knees for a long time. It's pretty intensive because
It is.
you kind of take those little things for granted though, right? That you just see it, it looks beautiful, and they're, everything's nice and neat, but you forget like, wow, they're actually like in a tough position. That's why they need extra tea to kind of like relieve the symptoms maybe. um you were talking a little bit about seeing some of these really cool things at conventions. I know now when you go to conventions, you are basically either at a panel or you're in your booth. But
Mhm.
if you were just kind of be able to kind of, go around, are there certain panels that you like to sit in on, or maybe back in your, if you did have convention going days, like what were the ones that you kind of would gravitate to? Because now they're working, you're on the other side of the table, right? But
For
is there?
San Diego Con, definitely quick draw
Yes.
with Sergio, Mark, Scott Shaw,
Scott.
and a guest. And basically, they take questions from the audience or suggestions from the audience, or Mark thinks of something, and they'll have to draw it right up, right off the top of the head, like, oh, do another an occupation for the Hulk,
Yes.
and so you draw like the Hulk as a ballerina, or the Hulk as a dentist or something, and it's always hilarious.
Yes, Scott recommended, because I asked him, I'm going to San Diego for the first time ever. He goes, "Don't miss Quick Draw." So I made sure I lined up for that thing, and I got into the room last year, and you're right. It was one of the best things. It was probably my favorite panel
Yeah.
being there for. It was hilarious, and the speed in which those guys can draw is unbelievable, especially Sergio. He's
Oh
so
my God.
fast, so witty, and yeah, the way that as soon as like I don't know if it was a pen or a marker or whatever, as soon as the pen hits the paper, it just seems like there's like an explosion and
Right,
then
right.
magic.
And it's not just a drawing, but it's also the gag.
Yes,
And
yes, it's the witty,
it's
it's,
amazing.
yeah, it's very, very funny.
I was one of the guests of not the third artist, but they also bring guest artists.
Uh-huh.
Well, that make a 5 minute segment.
Okay.
So I was one of those ones, and oh my gosh, the pressure.
Is it stressful up there? Like
It's
it's
stressful, and
you're like, I kind of like take my time with it. Is that that's generally kind of your method, right? You kind of like to take your time and
well, I can draw quickly. However,
right.
the gag that's
Hmm.
the hardest part, the thoughts.
Yes, yes.
And I did it for maybe 5 minutes, but for them to do it for an hour, it's I don't think anybody can do it.
Well, I'm sure you're more than capable of it, but I think they're also used to it. Like they've been doing it for years,
Mm.
right? Like years
They
and
have,
years.
but even before then, I mean, they're just so quick with the gag.
Yeah, yeah. There was one that Scott did that just cracked me up because he was basically, I can't remember who was on the microphone because it was like a guest from the audience
Mhm.
trying to guess something. And
Oh
like he
yeah,
was kind of like making fun of her a little bit, but it was in a really funny way. It's because she couldn't think of something. And he was just super, super quick witted. I go, oh my gosh, how do they think of these things? They're just so quick witted. But yeah, that's a lot of fun for
and
sure.
that's the part where they'll be drawing, and the audience member has to guess what they're drawing.
Yes.
And I remember when I was there once, the word was miscellaneous. How do you draw miscellaneous?
I don't know. I'm sure they came up with something brilliant though.
It was funny, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's a lot of fun. Um, so since we last spoke, I actually read in a little book club of mine, Musashi by Yoshikawa, and of course, then I wanted to read the Book of Five Rings, and I have to admit, I enjoyed it's this really large book. It took us a while. We took our time with it. It took almost a year. We really like would meet about it every week, talk about one chapter at a time. But I have to say, I think I enjoyed it because of Usagi Yojimbo. Are there things in different mediums that you found where like you've read a book and maybe you enjoyed the movie more because of it, or vice versa, or in the way that I kind of had that experience where because of my love for Usagi, I think I love all things maybe samurai a little more, or like I said, that Musashi book really resonated, of course, because I had that experience. Is there anything like that that resonates for you?
Oh yeah, it's with Musashi. I saw the movies before I
Mhm.
read the book, the Inagaki Toshida Mifune Musashi trilogy, Samurai trilogy,
Mhm.
and then I read the book later and thought, oh, this it gave me more insight, more I can see Mifune in the role, and that was great. But yeah, it's a lot. There are some movies that I would read the books first and then watch the movie. Sometimes it enhances, other times uh, it destroyed it.
Yes, I know, it's sad.
Yeah, I know Wicked, that Broadway play
Yes.
was, everyone raved about it, but I read the book first and I hated it because it took the magic out of Oz, and I could never go and see Wicked. Oh, it's really good. You should see it. Well, yeah, I didn't like the book, so.
So, oh, because you loved The Wizard of Oz?
I did love the Wizard of Oz, and Wicked. It turns the Wizard of Oz, the wizard, into basically Hitler,
It's true.
and so it just destroyed everything for me. And
Oh.
the Wicked Witch was a freedom fighter or something.
Yeah, it kind of flips everything and you're
Yeah,
like,
it
"Wait,
does.
no, I had
Yeah,
my vision in my head." And
yeah. It's like,
it
this is
kind of
not what
crushes your
my
childhood.
mom wanted.
Right. Well, I kind of agree. I mean, I obviously it has that one amazing song, but I did think it was a little overrated as well in terms of Broadway. Do you like Broadway shows?
I do. I love musicals, and I love live theater.
Mhm. What are some of your favorites?
Oh, my two favorites are um, West Side Story
Mhm.
and Fiddler on the Roof,
Oh,
as far
okay.
as musicals go.
Yeah, both wonderful classics, and both made into films as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Did you enjoy the film aspect as well, or did you like the film first, or the play or the live?
I was aware of I saw the film first,
Mhm.
but I think Spielberg's redoing West Side
Yes,
Story.
yes. He's doing West Side Story, and Ansel. I can't remember his last name. I was at the Colbert Show, and he
Yeah,
from Baby Driver.
yeah.
Yeah, he's in that, and he was a guest at Stephen Colbert, and I was in
Oh.
the live audience, and he came out talking about it. So yeah, I think he is redoing that, which should be
And I
interesting.
think is it Chica Rivera or something is
Hmm.
reprising, is also going to be in there, and she was in the original Broadway as well as the movie.
Ah, okay, yeah, it should be interesting.
Yeah.
Taking on, I always find it interesting when directors are like, okay, now I want to do a musical, and they like really kind of break out from all their quote unquote normal stereotypical things like sci-fi and all these different things. So that should be interesting. But yeah, I love musicals as well. A really big fan. Is that something you kind of grew up on, or was it something you kind of gravitated to later?
Something I gravitated towards, and LA had when I was living in Los Angeles, they had a lot of small community theaters like the Colony, the Circle around in Glendale, and they would show things that you couldn't see anywhere else. I saw Happy Days, and directed by
Oh,
Gary Marshall. Gary Marshall was there, or
really?
yeah, and the Pasadena's Playhouse. They did a presentation of let's see, it was Ray Bradbury.
Okay, Fahrenheit
No, it wasn't
451. No.
Fahrenheit. I think it was Ice Cream Suit,
Okay.
and
Not
one of
familiar.
his lesser known. But they also, the Colony Theater also did Dandelion Wine, which is my favorite Ray Bradbury. And
Okay.
Ray had done the the script, and he also wrote songs for it. And
Really?
he was there. He goes to all the performances, and I knew that. So afterwards, I got to talk to him. He signed a few books for me.
Wonderful.
Mm.
I think it's always fun because, people are always coming up to you to get their book signed, but I love that, you have your own fandom as well, and the people that you would like to get your book
Oh yeah,
signed and things like
basically, us creators were basically fans,
that. You probably started out as a fan.
and we still are.
I love that. I love that. Last time we spoke, you told me you were doing archery. Have you still been doing that?
No, I haven't. I have a little wrist thing
Oh
here, but I
no.
can't really hold the bow as long. So,
Hmm.
but our archery setup is still in the backyard. So.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So in terms of working on Usagi and also reading scripts, those are obviously keeping you kind of busy full time. Are there other things that you guys have been doing there?
Just staying in the house. And like I said, Julie and I collaborating on the Chibi Usagi story. Right now, the story's all done, the lettering's all done. We're just right now inking,
Okay.
and Emmy's doing the coloring right now. So hopefully, we'll get it in time in ahead of deadline.
Oh, wow. And so that's going to be released for, you said, next year or the end of the year?
2021, probably in the spring, or it might be the fall. I'm not sure.
Okay. And that's going to be a full graphic novel, you
Old
said.
graphic novel, like 120 pages. It's
Wow.
original story, and it's a lot of fun. It's a really fun story.
Yeah. And what prompted you to kind of decide that you wanted to do a full 120-page graphic novel for that series?
We're just talking, Julie and I, and Daniel and Emmy, and we've done shorter
Yes.
Studio Sagi stories,
Yes,
and
I've
we
seen
think,
it.
oh, we should do a longer one. And we just asked IDW, and they were all enthused. Yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
Yeah.
Also, to the young adult market, the kids market
Hmm.
is the fastest growing segment of the graphic novel, readership.
Absolutely.
So that's a market that most comic book companies have not tapped into. The
Hmm.
bigger companies, Scholastic, Random House, First Second, they're all doing it. But for a comic book company, yeah, they really should tap into that market.
Yeah, I think that's something that's very special about Usagi is that you span such a wide readership. And of course, the Chibi series is going to be extra like targeted because so cute. So,
Yeah,
so cute.
he's a terrific artist and storyteller. So
Yeah, the cute factor is way up there. But I think that's what's really special about Usagi. I read a lot of very, very on the more adult side when it comes to comics. Like it's weird, my novel stuff. I love reading YA novels, but for when it comes to comics, I'm like kind of all in on the darkness, except
mm,
for my Usagi. And so when my friends ask me for recommendations, I usually am like, well, especially for their kids, I
mhm,
always recommend Usagi because I'm like, that's evergreen. Like it can span all ages, and I think that's something that's really difficult to achieve, and you do it so well when you set out to create the character or as you've been developing the stories. Do you think about who the like you have a specific audience, or you're just kind of telling the story and it happens to be able to kind of reach everyone?
I think it just happens to reach out to everyone because you know, write the stories that I think I would have liked to read, and then I refine it, thinking, oh, I'll change it or something. But basically, I'm just grateful that so many people are in tune with the type of stories that I like to write.
Hmm. Are you often surprised by certain reactions? Like you said, everybody who was kind of in an uproar when Spot got nixed. Are there any other like big public reactions that you could think of through the Usagi? 36 years now, is it?
Going on 36.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, 36 years of stories. And is there anything else that resonates into like some of the more surprising reactions that you've gotten?
Most of the reactions are very true to what I anticipated. Once in a while,
Okay.
I'll get something like, oh, they're upset about this or upset about that, or uh, I remember we got one letter saying, "Why aren't there any transgenders or gay characters in Usagi?" And my answer was, "Oh yes, there's been a gay character in there for a long time. It's just I write them as normal people."
Because they're normal people. Although it's interesting that that you get a lot of fan mail still, and you get a lot of requests. Is that kind of like an ongoing thing? Because I know that other creators have told me over the years, like the letters to the editors, that kind of thing has kind of died down a bit. How's that been for you? Because I know you
It
usually
has
get a lot.
we'll get maybe 2 letters a month,
Okay.
written letters with artwork or something. But yeah, it has died. We used to get maybe half a dozen or so easily each
Mm-hmm.
month. There was one guy that would write maybe about 4 or 5 pages after each issue came out. And
Really? Like a
then
book
me,
report.
I was talking to Baton Lash, who did Supernatural Law, and he had the same person write to him as well after each issue came out. So it was kind of funny that he
Wow.
did that on a regular basis to a number of creators.
Wow. He has a lot of time.
Yeah. But I also have to thank the publishers for keeping Usagi in print, both Fantagraphics, Dark Horse, and IDW. The saga books the thick omnibus collections have been out of print, but Dark Horse is putting them back in print next year, starting from next year. So Usagi is always being reprinted, which is great because I love having a library that's always available to new readers.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely key. I know that when I was visiting my friend, he owns a comic book store, pop culture store. He was like showing off his hardcover volumes, and I think at that time it was like you could only get it, certain times and everything. So it is nice that they do bring these things back for those of us that missed it the first time around. Is there any other exciting things that we should know? I know if they follow usagiyojimbo.com and follow you on social media, you're usually posting all the updates and when things are being released and everything.
Yeah, my Facebook page or stansakai.com. We sell merchandise as well as have news about upcoming appearances, events, new things that's coming on. So, no, basically, I'm also doing some other work for other series. They haven't announced it yet, so I can't really talk about
Secrets,
those.
more secrets,
Well,
Stan.
it's not secrets. It's just that
I'm just
I
kidding.
can't really talk about it until they've made an official
Of
announcement.
course, of course. I totally am jesting. I wish I could show you, but I'm on my computer because like on my laptop, I only have one sticker and you can guess who's on there. It's a lovely sticker I picked up at San Diego Comic Con last year, and he matches
Oh,
my blue cover and everything. So he's right there, always watching me, looking after me. But yeah, there are some really cool swag, really cool things that you can pick up at usagiyojimbo.com. So listeners, make sure
oh,
you
it's
do that.
stansakai.com.
It's stansakai.com. And also, of course, like you said, the new issues are going to be coming back out soon. Now that hopefully publishing is starting back because of the whole COVID thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, so hopefully that's going back. But the ongoing things are always still, I think, on Comixology. You can get, all the
Mhm.
different issues and everything. So, yeah, it was just great to talk to you again and to
Thank
catch
you,
up.
Nikki.
I really appreciate you taking time because I know how very busy you are. So I really appreciate it. My best to Julie and Emmy and Daniel and you, and I'm glad to hear everybody's safe and healthy. So just say hello to everybody, and hopefully you'll come back and chat with me again.
Of course, maybe once the series starts airing.
Absolutely, I will hold you to that. Once it starts airing, we can do like a live watch on one, and you can give me like commentary. We'll have popcorn and everything. But yeah, that's very exciting. I know that it's imminent and they're going to start, they'll announce when everything's coming out. So like I said, just keep following Stan Sakai, and that way we can hear about it. And once again, congratulations on beyond a well-deserved Eisner wins, as well as the Hall of Fame. There are so many people and so many creators in the industry, but you are, of course, one of my favorites, and also has just dedicated your whole life to that mastery of Usagi Yojimbo and have shared this wonderful creation with all of us. So congratulations on that honor, and thank you.
No, thank you, Mimi.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to Culture Chat and hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please subscribe and rate my podcast. Feel free to leave me suggestions or send an email to mimi at culturechatpodcast.com or follow me on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook.